What if manifestation wasn't about forcing, grinding, or toxic positivity, but about healing what's been quietly shaping your choices, relationships, and your self worth? She Manifested That is where Black women come to share the real stories behind their manifestations, the healing before the blessings, the boundaries that made space for breakthroughs, and the self trust that changed everything. So if you're ready to manifest your next level, join me, Dr. Dre Cleveland, your personal power coach, and some incredible Black women, and let our stories reflect the life you've lived and the one you're calling in. Stay tuned, sis, and grab your cup of tea, because, girl, this is just another way to get your life together. This episode of She Manifested That is powered by financial advocate Chad Chambers with New York Life. Building legacy and protecting your loved ones is one of the deepest forms of self-love. Get your free consultation to help you make sure your future and your family are secure. Find the links in the show notes. Hey, sis. Welcome back to She Manifested That, the podcast where Black women come to share the real stories behind the blessings, breakthroughs, and manifestations they brought into their lives. I'm Dr. Dre Cleveland, your personal power coach, and today we are talking with Miss Natisha Willis about how she manifested Mexico. But that was the easy part. So stay tuned for this story. Well, first of all, Natisha, it's been a long time coming, because we're just talking about that we have known each other for a really, really long time.
Yeah, over a decade now.
Right. And have no clue how or why.
Where?
Right. Except we know it was on Facebook.
On the side of 95,
Right. Exactly. So, to me, this is like an example of how, the universe brings like-minded energies together, regardless of the way, right? Like before, I could say, yeah, and I've had a few of my long-term friends on here, like, yeah, well, we knew each other since high school, we knew each other since college, or, there was an actual physical reason for us to know each other.
Yeah, we were
right?
in the same place at the same physical place.
The same physical place at the same time. But, that's not our story. And I think that's a really amazing testament to the power of the internet.
Absolutely.
But also, how the universe will still fashion things to go the way that they will. And there's not a lot of physical things that can stop it from happening if it's meant.
Right.
And so, welcome. Before we get started, I need you to introduce yourself to us in a 5 word. So what are 5 words you would use to describe yourself?
Ooh, 5 words that I would use to describe myself. Free. uh, disobedient.
Fair.
Damn, I never thought this would be so challenging. 5 words to describe me.
Mm-hmm.
Fun, friendly, water child.
Oh,
whatever that means.
Whatever that means to you.
I'm all of that. Whatever that means, I'm all of that.
Yes.
Everything that comes with the water, that's me.
Exactly. Yes. But those first 2, I was like, girl. Yep. That 100%. And I have a very strong feeling that this story is going to really amplify those particular traits of yours.
Yes.
But let's get into that, right? Because today we are talking about how you manifested Mexico, and you said that was the easy part. So what was what was happening in your life before this?
Before Mexico?
Yes, before Mexico.
So before Mexico, I was an academic advisor, working at an acupuncture school. building my coaching business on the side, doing the best, doing all that I could to get off them people job. I was in programs, joining masterminds, launching membership programs. At that point, I had been studying internet marketing for at least 4 to 5 years. Um, Professionally, right? And I say professionally, meaning I'm investing in thousands of dollars
Mhm.
in programs at that point, right? Before then, I was right trying to piece together things, reading books, doing a lot of free knowledge, and then I started investing handsomely,
Mhm.
4 and 5 figure investments. And so I started teaching everything that I knew to people who were making the world, I felt, a better place. So life coaches and health coaches, and other people in natural health or natural medicine careers. Um, but yeah, that's where I was. I was working full time. I remember my office
Mhm.
looking, I had a slit in the window looking directly at the parking lot. And my goodness, I used to think about how that was not going to be my reality forever. You
Mhm.
know, this view of the parking lot wasn't gonna be
Mhm.
it. So
Thank
yeah.
that. I love that. So when you say I knew this view of the parking lot wasn't going to be it, right? What I'm just curious, like was that the shift for you, or was there like something else that happened that made you know, like, okay, something's got to be different?
Well, so here's the thing. I am now a permanent resident of Mexico. But and I've been in Mexico for 8 years. But so let's just rewind to 8 years ago. But that point, that 2018 point when I first moved to Mexico, um, it happened because of 10 years prior, I went to Nigeria with my college roommate.
Mm,
And for my first foot outside the US, my first passport stamp, my first experience of being somewhere where there were no street lights, there was no light pollution, there were not ambulances screaming. I'm from Chicago, right? There were not gunshots there, right? Like there, none of the
mhm,
city stuff that I was used to was happening. That first time, me leaving the country, I said, "Oh, I'm supposed to live like this."
mm,
Right?
gotcha.
Now it took,
Mm,
that was 2008. It took 10 years for me to leave and stay gone, if you will. But me making the decision to Mexico came, I think it Mexico was the manifestation, right? The realization, it was the reality, it was when you pray for something and then you get it.
yeah.
Right? I just knew that I wanted to live outside the states. I didn't care where it was, right? As
Okay.
long as pineapples and mangoes grew there, baby, I'm good,
I
right?
hear
But
that.
that was my thinking, but I did not know what that actually meant, right?
Yeah.
If pineapples and mangoes grew there, that means that's someplace tropical. If
Mhm,
pineapples and mangoes grew there, that means it was probably a part of the slave trade in some way, which
mhm,
also meant that my ancestry was probably connected to that. Right? Now I can look, I'm like, oh, like my immature quote unquote self had only language I knew was my if pineapples and mangoes grow there, that's where I want to be. But I
mhm.
didn't think about the extension of that, right?
Yeah.
And so if pineapples and mangoes grow there, then coconuts probably grow there too, and okra and
Mhm,
right, like there's probably ocean nearby, which all of these things that I have now learned are my favorite things. So when you ask, was there something that like what was the switch? That was always the dream, right? Like
yeah.
that was the goal. Like Mexico was how it showed up, but living
Mhm.
outside the US was the plan from
From the get.
2008. I just
Yeah.
didn't know how it was, right? Because in 2008, when I wanted to live outside the country, nobody was doing it. The only
Yeah.
people who lived outside the country taught math, they taught English, or they
Mhm.
went to Peace Corps. And I knew I
Yep.
didn't want to do none of that. I didn't
That
care
part.
about English, and I ain't know I definitely wasn't gonna be right. So my mindset was, I'll be damned if I'm gonna hate my job while I'm living my dream life.
Mhm.
So it was like okay, so now I'm waiting. I don't know how I'm going to make this happen. I have
You
no
just
idea, right? But it's going to happen. I'm committed. I'm meeting guys. I ain't got a bit of a plan, but I'm asking them, hey, what do you think about outside the country? Right? None of the guys was interested, but it was like, all right, right? I had opportunities to buy property. I'm like, nope, because when it's time for me to move outside the country, I can't. That's gonna be
Mhm.
too, it's gonna be too much, right? Like in my mind, I was not making any permanent decisions that would impact my ability to move outside the country. This was for a
Yeah.
decade. I promise, I had no idea when it was going to happen or how. I just knew that it was
Mhm.
happening.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
somewhere around, oh, go ahead. What are we
Well,
gonna
no, I mean, I was enjoying the story, but one thing
Yeah,
that I do want to point out, which I think is really important for this conversation and for our listeners, is that the thing that stood out for me about what you said is Mexico's the way it showed up. It's not
yes,
necessarily what the plan was. And a
yes,
lot of times we have to remember that and you are demonstrating an amazing picture of holding a vision, right? First of all, right? Because the 10-year vision, and people have to understand, like, so manifestation, there's a planting season. There is a season where
hmm
you're planting. Everything is not I think about it and then it comes tomorrow. For whatever
Mm-mm.
reason, I don't know why that's a
No.
thing. I mean, I get it to an extent.
Well, we
Why?
don't really know what it means to plant, right? I
Yeah.
lived on 8 acres of land. So we had to, in order to, I hosted a community garden. We had to till the soil,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So from like there's work involved. You got to prepare the
Yeah.
soil before you plant the seed,
Right,
right?
exactly.
You
But
got to
you know
clear
what?
the
At the
land.
same time, that
Yeah.
part of it, number one, microwave society, A.
Yeah.
But part B, because a lot of people when they teach manifestation, they make it seem like it's that
Yeah.
easy. And that's why they have billions of followers, but that's why they have billions of followers where the vast majority of them are still waiting for the things that they
Exactly.
are wanting to
And
manifest
and
because
they're
it's
dis
not like that.
Well, and I think also, right, this assumption that it's supposed to happen lightning fast causes people to give up
Yeah.
on the
Hmm.
dream. They give up because the
Right.
assumption is, well, if it didn't happen in a year or two, then it's never gonna happen. And it's like, but what if you are becoming someone in the process, right?
Hmm.
What if you are adjusting and shifting and learning and growing to the place where you now have the capacity to hold, right?
Hmm.
This dream that you. So I think in that way, that's what I was doing. I didn't know it,
Right.
right?
You didn't know
And
that, but you were.
no clue.
Hmm.
But I was that was the process,
Yeah.
right? Of me I was still traveling abroad. I had a passport. I'm like, okay, this bad boy is good for 10 years. I'm a, at least take one trip every year. And so I did that. Whether that meant driving to Toronto. I remember driving to Toronto from Chicago because I'm like once a year, like that's the commitment, right? Once a year, I need to use this passport because I don't want to know dust to get on it because then I'm gonna forget what it means and what it feels like to leave the US.
Mhm.
If this is, I need to visit my dream. If I can't
Yeah.
live in the dream, I need to at least visit the dream regularly.
Mhm. Yeah.
Again, I know this on this side of things,
Right.
right? But then it was like, no, I got to make sure that I stay in touch. Like, we still we
Yeah.
still know what each other feel like. You know what I
Right.
feel like, I know what you feel
That
like.
part. Yes. Yes.
Right. So whether it was, driving to Toronto or someone I met, I remember a few years later, she was the ex-wife of someone who I was in community with, and she mentioned she lived in Costa Rica, and she said, "Oh, you can come visit." I said, "Listen, don't play with me. Do not threaten me, because I will show up." She was like, "No, for real, ma'am." I was there within like 60 days. Like back
Yeah.
then, the Travel Zoo would have deals. It was like a $300
Hmm.
round trip ticket from DC to Costa Rica. I had to stay at a hostel, take a bus 2 hours. But I
Yeah.
showed up.
Commitment.
But because I'm like, here's someone who's living the dream. She lives in Costa Rica and she's invited me to come. I am coming.
Right.
Right? So
Yeah.
in that 10 years, I was doing so many, like I enrolled in two PhD programs and dropped out. I went to massage school, right? Because in my mind, I need to have a skill set where I can create cash. I need to, right, start figuring out how to create income for myself outside of a corporate job, a corporate entity. I joined one of my therapists said I joined a cult. I don't think it was actually a cult. But it was a Black feminist nationalist organization where we did do weapons training. And
That's
I
so
completed a year-long rites of passage program with the intention of us leaving the country, right? But I like lived out my backpack for a year. Like I did all of these things that ultimately quite honestly helped me to grow in my faith, right? My dependence, my independence, my ability to operate independent of certainty. I
yeah.
think that's what I was really and throughout that for that 10-year time frame, that's what I was
Mhm.
growing. My
Yeah.
ability that when uncertainty showed up, I did not shrink or run
Hmm.
and hide. When
Yeah.
I was not certain and when I was afraid, that I shifted my relationship with fear, that now fear meant we need to move toward that instead of what I was raised to believe in Chicago, which
Mm.
is, baby, when you feel fear, you better go the other direction.
You gotta go. Yes, yes. But well, let me
Right.
say something because I think again, and this is like really good conversation for all of this and for how manifestation works, right? Because right now
Mhm.
you're talking about the role of our nervous system and
Yes.
how there are things that our nervous system, like we're trained to think that our nervous system, like when it does its job to make us feel safe, that is something safe equals good, and it
Yeah.
doesn't. Safe equals familiar. And if you grew up in Chicago and you have
Right.
to run from
South side.
South Side, okay? And then but you have a dream that's big enough to carry you out of the
Mm,
comfort of the places where you even if it's the South Side, right? That's comfortable because that's what I know. And what I know also comes with different, schema and different things that won't allow, speaking of someone becoming who they need to be
yeah.
in order to get to the next level. If the schema is not built that way, your nervous system is like, girl, what you doing? Right. So
Hmm.
so what I heard you say is a lot of that time during that 10-year period, who I had to become with someone whose nervous system has the
Yes.
opposite the
Yeah,
opposite reaction than what it was. That takes time, right?
it does.
And that woman can meet being and living outside of the country without people that she knows, without the safety of
Yeah.
her home, right? Even though, totally different environment, the one that was in your dream life was the one that was unsafe at first. That would have
Hmm.
felt unsafe.
Yeah.
Original you might not have been able to carry that.
Yeah, the irony is, right, what you say is absolutely correct. In theory, I'm moving out of the country to a place where I don't know anybody. In
Mhm.
reality, you know what happened? In that 10-year time frame, I was also meeting people in Facebook groups. Ha, that's probably how we met. Right,
Right.
connecting with people. I'm launching like masterminds, like, hey, let's get together. We're all business owners. Let's get together and talk shop. Um, and my reality when I moved to Mexico is two of the people who I had invited to my mastermind 2 or 3 years prior, we all moved to the same place in Mexico the same week
Dope.
without knowing that we were all moving to the
Yeah.
same place.
Yeah.
So it this idea of manifestation, so often I feel like we talk about it or people talk about it from the perspective of number one, there's no work involved for you. Um, But I think there really is that yes, there's work for you, but there is a piece of letting go and truly
Yeah.
letting God,
Mhm.
right? That manifestation is really you do your part, right? They say if you take one step, right, God will take two. It's
Yep.
really you doing your part. You do the parts that are in your control. That when I got ready to move to Mexico, I moved to Mexico surprisingly. There was no year-long plan, right? I got laid off from my job. But here's what's interesting. I got laid off from my job. I knew I was getting laid off that week. When they laid me off, I mean, in my, in my mind, in my psyche, in my
Yeah.
intuition, I was like, Shondo. I was like, oh, they about to lay me off. When they laid me off, I said, bet I'm leaving the country.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that point, February 5th, 2018, before I got to February 5th, I was in October 26, 2017. That was my birthday. And I felt depressed. And I said, I have tried everything I know to do in order to move abroad. I have no idea what else to do. This business is not enough to sustain me. You know what? I'm going to just start doing everything else. I hired a stylist. I flew to Atlanta. I told her my goal was to make sure all my clothes fit in one suitcase, right? I started planning to move
Mm-hmm.
abroad. Now, mind you, I was already living with the intention, so I wouldn't get a big house. I
Right.
wouldn't. My apartment had temporary furniture, like I had a used futon from IKEA. Like everything was like disposable. Like my whole life was was disposable.
Yeah.
So October 2017, I hired a personal trainer, nutritionist, and I started working out. I hired someone to help me with my food. I started ordering Blue Apron because I didn't really know how to cook. And so I started making these moves. And literally, I was like, I don't know what else to do. I'm gonna just focus on me. I'm gonna focus on my health. I'm gonna focus on getting ready. And in 90 days, I was laid off and ready to go.
I know that's right. I know that's right. Love it. So, this is really important for people to hear, right? A lot of this I'm going to say it's a 50-50 dance,
Yeah.
right? Because there is a lot of this that's not in your control, right? But
Yeah.
it's part of that season of sowing and waiting,
Yeah.
right? And I always tell people, like, when you plant a flower in your garden, you don't put the seeds in there and then expect it to be ready tomorrow. You just put
Right.
the seed in there, right?
Yeah.
And
You need
when
sun, you need water. Like you
exactly.
might control the water, but you don't control the sun.
Right, exact that part. And when one day you just look out there and it bloomed. You don't know what day it was. You can't go, well, on March 25th, that's when it's gonna come out. Right? You don't have control over that. You just gonna one day it's gonna be ready. And when it's ready, it's gonna bloom. And that's
Yeah.
just what it is. Right. And before we even, because I know we're gonna wrap up soon, I want to go back to one thing that we started saying beforehand, because I think it's an important way to tie this back into how you got there, right? And
Yeah.
how you got to Mexico. Because you originally started with, I always had the dream, but Mexico wasn't exactly, on the docket. That we didn't have that how. It was just, I know it's a thing that's gonna happen, and that's the way that it showed up, right?
Yeah.
And that's a part of that control that people think that they have, right? Sometimes you want to control things so much that
Yeah.
also holds you away from the thing that you want to bring into your life, because you want it to look exactly how you want it to look, and that part's not your job, right?
No.
Now granted, sure, you could be like, I want to move to Mexico, in the future. Fine, that could be a thing. But what I'm saying is that you had the openness, you had the general outline, the skeleton of the plan, right? this
Yeah.
is this is what needs to happen, this is what I'm committed to, this is the vision I'm holding. And it happened that Mexico was the path of least resistance, right?
Absolutely.
And the path of least resistance is important for us to understand, because it allows us to relax into allowing for God, the universe, like whatever people want to call it, to find the best way to get you where you're going.
Exactly.
You don't know what the best way is to get you anywhere, right? You
Yeah.
think you do, right?
Yeah.
Because ego, and we're human, so there's that. We can't help it. But
MTV used to say, you think you know, but you have no idea.
right, exactly. You have no idea, right? And maybe they should have made a documentary about this so we can understand. But but I say that to say, right, that's what holds a lot of people away from their manifestation, because they're
Yeah.
too holding on to that it has to look a certain way. And it doesn't have to
Yeah.
look a certain way. What it has to look like is you being clear on what the outcome has to be. And that's the vision that you hold. And that's what you did.
What does it feel like? If you can just move on, what does it feel like? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's actually the truth. We've been in our society in the US, we've been raised, number one, anxious as hell, right? This
Mm-hmm.
whole everything, it creates anxiety. And when we're anxious, we try to control, right? And so trying to control the outcome is just, it's an outcome of being raised in this society. And most of the time, we've been conditioned away from how we feel. Everything we do, we disconnect from our bodies, right? In order to succeed in corporate or entrepreneurship, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or let me just push through, right? All of these things disconnect you from your body. But in my opinion, if you really want to realize, like make your manifestations become real, it's about the feeling. How will
Mm-hmm.
how will it feel once you get there?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how I knew that this was home, was how I felt. Because I didn't, let me tell you something. When I chose Mexico, specifically Playa del Carmen, I had never been here a day in my life. I saw it on the shirt, and in my mind, I had heard about either Mexico City or Playa del Carmen. I'm like, all right, let's go to. I said, actually, let's see. I don't know. And I'll never forget walking into the gym within 48 hours. I'm walking in. There's a girl literally walking toward me. Her shirt says Playa del Carmen, Playa del Carmen, Playa del Carmen. I said, all right, bet.
Like, let's go.
Right? Because in my mind, I'm like, let's see. I ain't
Mm-hmm.
never been to none of these places, so do it really matter? But when I talk to when now online, you see all these people, they are doing all this planning and strategizing about where to go and what cities to date, and they're doing all this research that only exists in their head that does
Mm-hmm.
not include their bodies.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When
Mm-hmm.
I was preparing, when I started working out, I would be sweating on Facebook Live. I just started doing all these things. I started, when I started changing my diet, decreasing sugar, eating balanced meals, drinking more water, taking my supplements. I didn't realize it at the time, but what I was doing was making the signal clear.
Mm-hmm.
I could now hear my body more clearly because there wasn't a whole bunch of noise and static happening,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is why I believe now I was building capacity, right? Because that's really what we need. When you start doing things that impact your body, well, when I was doing things that impacted my body, I was building capacity to be able to be afraid and still do the thing. Most of the time, my capacity ain't but 16 ounces. We only got, so anything if you got a liter worth of fear, oh, I'm overwhelmed, it's too much.
Yeah.
But as I was working my body, I was increasing my capacity to a gallon now. So a liter of fear was not completely overwhelming. It was like, all right, I got fear and I have desire. I
Mm-hmm.
have fear and I have expectancy.
Mm-hmm.
I have enough space in my body to hold both of those things. I think
Yeah.
the challenge for most of us, especially Black women, and particularly when we over a certain age, 40, over
Mm-hmm.
35, 40, right? We've been worked so hard away from paying attention to our bodies and pushing through that we don't have the capacity to hold both fear and freedom.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
to have the capacity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? I think that because we could have this conversation forever. So there's
Yeah.
that. But I also think that what you just said is a great place for us to end at, because it's a question for people to really mull over for themselves. Like, how are you building your capacity to hold what it is that you are calling
Yeah.
into your life, right? Because that's what it takes. That's the part that's your part to do, right? The rest of it is gonna happen the way it happens, but the biggest part is gonna be your ability to hold that thing and your ability to hear the signs. And that's what I heard in what you were just saying. But hear the signs, feel the signals of when you're in alignment with the things that are pulling you to that thing. So anyway, we probably gotta have part two, because we are near the end of our time together. So I want you to tell us where we can find you on socials.
Yeah, please come follow me and come hang out. Let's talk on Instagram at Coach Tish. I'm also on LinkedIn at Coach Tish. I'm on YouTube at Freedom Coach Tish. So, come hang out. Let me know this is where you met me. This is where we because me and Dre still don't know where we met. We're gonna figure it out. But at least let's put some documentation in place. When you
Right.
come holler at me. I would love to inspire, motivate, encourage, and really show you the way to build capacity. That's what I'm about these days.
Love it.
Is
Love
building
it.
the
Love
capacity to not just manifest, but to hold the dream on the other side. We didn't
it.
get to that part, but that
Yes.
has been the second half of the manifestation. Is all right. This is the life I desired. Now, how do I make sure that I'm not hustling while I'm here? How do I make sure that I enjoy it the
Yes.
whole way through?
So love it. So again, part two, part two is coming.
Yes,
But sis, if she manifested that, so can you. Your desires are real, your healing is valid, and the next level of you is already calling your name. So, and before you go, make sure you download the manifestation readiness check at amireadytomanifest.com. It's a quick and powerful way to see what's standing between you and the life you're calling in. And until next time, keep believing, keep becoming, and keep manifesting. Ciao.
ciao.
Hey sis, don't go just yet. I want to share something really special with you. Black Girls Manifest is a book and an experience that I created for Black women ready to heal, remember who they are, and manifest from alignment, not struggle. If that's you, visit getblackgirlsmanifest.com and take your next aligned step.